I saw this magazine and I just could not bring it home with me, so let's find out if there was anything juicy inside.
Kiki Classic Rock.
Hey guys, my name is Kiki, and if you are new to my channel, welcome. What I like to do is talk about anything and everything classic rock, pop, nostalgia, all the fun stuff that we grew up with. I just love it. And if you love that too, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the like button, because YouTube loves when you hit the like button. It helps me out. And of course, the little tiny notification ding dong bell that lets you know every single time I upload a brand new video. So don't forget to hit that little ding dong bell as well. First of all, seeing a magazine today, we all just think about how magazines are a dying breed. But to see a magazine with young Van Halen on the cover, it stopped me dead in my tracks, and I just had to pick it up. Then, now remember, I refuse to wear readers. I try to eat more carrots, figuring that will help out, but hashtag not working. So I pick up the magazine and I'm doing this whole thing, and people are looking at me laughing. But anyway, and they're probably saying to themselves,
why isn't she wearing readers?
So I zone in on the price of the magazine, and I'm like, whoa! I shuddered a bit, I'm not gonna lie. $13.99. Now I know that prices have gone up a bit, but boy, I apparently am extremely out of touch with the prices of magazines. So in the name of all of you amazing people, I swallowed the large lump that appeared inside of my throat after I viewed the price of this magazine, and I bought it to bring you some amazing rock information from Life magazine with the gorgeous Van Halen on the cover. Now the picture on the cover of this magazine, again, it just brings back a lot of fun memories for me, thinking about listening to their music when it first came out, rocking out to their music, kicking back and just enjoying their music. But also looking at this picture makes me sad because we did lose one of the greatest guitarists of our generation, Eddie Van Halen. Fittingly, Time magazine, who put this really cool magazine out, kicks off the entire booklet with an article about Eddie, and it's called A Guitar Genius. And there he is. Oh my goodness. Now the articles in this magazine are of course written by pro journalists. I can't even come close to rephrasing anything that these amazing writers have written, but I can tell you I read this magazine from cover to cover, and I'm just gonna sit here and bring you some of the cool tidbits that I learned about the band. Again, like I just said, Eddie's article opens up the entire magazine, and one thing I didn't know about Eddie, which is crazy, Jimi Hendrix was not one of his inspirations. A lot of the artists that I've had the honor to speak with usually bring up Jimi Hendrix's name, but Eddie was persuaded by another guitar god. His name is Eric Clapton. Another interesting fact that I learned about Eddie was that he was all about spontaneity. You know, some people really need to have a guide. Some people are phenomenal at improv, and Eddie was definitely one of those artists who was a master at improv. And actually, Van Halen as a whole, they were all masters of improv. Jan and Eugenia were the parents of Eddie and Alex, and Jan was a master on the clarinet and saxophone. So of course, Eddie and Alex fell into music because it was just in their blood. First band that Eddie and Alex had, well, the name of that band was called The Broken Comb. And then the name to come next was definitely a precursor of what was to come for the young boys. That name of that next band was the Trojan Rubber Company. Yeah, it was. Of course, another band name change was on the horizon. They wanted to change their name to Genesis, but Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel, they already had that one, so they changed their name to Mammoth. So at that point, 2 more band members came in, and that would be David Lee Roth and Michael Anthony. And the only reason, from what I read, that David Lee Roth was brought into the band was because Eddie and Alex were always renting PA equipment from David. So they figured, hey, if we bring him into the band, we can eliminate that cost. Because who, as a teenager, has any money? Good thinking on their part. The guys, of course, were playing the club circuit all over the place. They did catch the eye of Gene Simmons, who saw something special in the guys, but eventually it would be Mo Ostin and Ted Templeman from Warner Records who would get the guys' career off the ground. 1978, that was a glorious time for radio. Radio up to that point had been a very important tool for an artist's success, and 78 was no different. Van Halen was over the top at their live performances, and they already had themselves a really great following. But it was now time to get them out to the masses. So Mo had the idea of getting a 5 EP record together. He popped it on red vinyl to get the DJ's attention at these radio stations. And guess what? That tactic worked, and it worked real well. And honey, if you have yourselves one of those red vinyl promo discs from back in the day, yeehaw for you. Van Halen's self-titled album came out. They opened for Black Sabbath, and Ozzy Osbourne actually said that the guys blew them off the stage every night, and it was embarrassing. Ozzy said that. Album number 2 came out, and the guys, they were still really great friends at this point, and a handshake took the place of a written contract. Just imagine that. I wonder if they ever, to this day, wish that they could go back to that happy place in time with each other. Then albums number 3 and 4 came out, and at this point, now the guys were starting to get burnt out from touring nonstop, coming up with new material. It was really taking a toll. You can only imagine. And oh yeah. During this time, Eddie married Valerie Bertinelli. And of course, I loved the TV show One Day at a Time. Watched it all the time. People thought they were such an odd couple, but I saw them as a really cute couple. Didn't you? And David Lee Roth, he desperately wanted to do his own thing. So what he did was he recorded a cover of Roy Orbison's Oh Pretty Woman, and it did really well for him. Then the tour for Diver Down began, and this is when the Frothy Four really became frothy, and things started to really deteriorate at this point. And oh yeah, the guys were becoming a little requesty. They always asked to have a bowl of M&Ms backstage at every single one of their shows, but not just any bowl of M&Ms. And I'm sorry if you've heard this story before, but I have heard this story before. I just forgot about it, so I thought I would bring it up again. But the bowl of M&Ms had to have every single brown M&M removed out of it. People were saying that Van Halen were starting to become a bunch of divas, and Van Halen would turn around and say they wanted to make sure that management was paying attention. Again, things were starting to get real cray-cray between the guys, but then we had the glorious release of the album 1984, which included that amazing single of Jump, which seemed to continuously play 24/7 on MTV. And I was okay with that. How did Dave jump so perfectly high? How did Michael, Alex, and Eddie make everything look so perfectly fun when we know dang well that it wasn't? And geez, even when you listen to Jump now, my gosh, if you don't jump, you got a problem. And before the four that we knew as Van Halen broke apart, Quincy Jones approached Eddie Van Halen and asked him to be a part and lend his genius guitar playing to Michael Jackson's song Beat It. Now, Eddie could have completely had a mega cash cow from that one song, but he was so honored to be a part of it, he excluded himself from any part of the credits. And that right there, that is crazy town. But I get it. I wonder if Michael ever sent him anything, like a basket, a fruit, something, you know, maybe a pet chimp. I don't know. Even though we're sitting back and seeing that 1984 album as just a great compilation of music from the guys, behind the scenes, things were just not so great. As a matter of fact, when the guys were on their way to Europe for the Monsters of Rock tour, Dave kind of felt comfy and cozy sitting next to Eddie and played Eddie his cover of the Beach Boys' California Girls, and Eddie was not happy about that at all. Their show in Germany on September 2nd of 1984 would be the last time that we would ever see that foursome of Van Halen perform together again. So David moved on, he quit the band, he pursued his solo and movie career. That didn't work out too well for him, and I think that at that point too, everybody was looking back thinking that Van Halen was just gonna roll over and disappear. But then along came Sammy Hagar. Now Sammy Hagar, he was more refined. He liked eating in upper scale restaurants. Eddie was happy heating up a burrito in a microwave, but Sammy and Eddie really formed a tight friendship. March 24th of 1986 was the first Sammy Hagar led album. That was 5150, and that album came out of the gate and shot right up to #1, the very first album of Van Halen to ever do that. During this time, Eddie and Valerie's son Wolfgang was born. Eddie and Sammy's relationship was falling apart, and in June of 95, Eddie fired Sammy. In 96, Eddie, Alex, and Michael presented an award at the MTV Music Awards, and a shocked audience got the surprise of a lifetime. David Lee Roth walked out on that stage, and it was the first time the foursome was together in a decade. Gosh, were you in that audience? Man, I wish I was in that audience that night. From what I read, people were so happy about that. The applause lasted for like a half an hour. Unfortunately, nothing else came from that reunion, and Gary Cherone from Extreme took over lead singer responsibilities for Van Halen for a very short time. They got together again. In 2007, Van Halen was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And this time around, Eddie, Alex, and Dave did reunite. They did a bunch of shows, which included Eddie's 16-year-old son, Wolfgang, who received tons of praise from the fans. On February 7th of 2012, the guys released an album called A Different Kind of Truth that put them on the road with a bunch of tours, and it went to #2 on the Billboard 200. Whether we love the songs with Dave singing them or with Sammy singing them, personally, I love them both. The story of Van Halen, for me anyway, just never gets old. You know, this is part of what keeps our music memories alive, and I loved reading this. So if you see it, pick it up. I think you'll be glad you did. I sound like a commercial. Guys, watch one of these 2 videos coming up next to keep your love of music going and flowing. Maybe you'll get reminded of a memory. You're like, why? Why did I forget about that? And remember to be kind, stay safe, and as always, most importantly, keep rocking.